When moving from light to dark, our brain, which treats all our senses equally, begins adjusting to this transition, and interesting things happen to our bodies. In many examples of prehistoric monumental architecture that deal with the dead, such as the great passage tombs of Newgrange Nowth and Douth in the Boyne Valley complex in County Meath, as well as a number of caves, this transition has been tied to the idea of liminality and is linked to a movement from one world to another world. Anthropologists have observed patterns in ritual behaviour that stressed the importance of physical and symbolic thresholds. These thresholds are linked to various forms of transition, and the concept of liminality, from the Latin word for threshold, limen, is the central tenet to understanding ideas around rites of passage involving a transit to another state of mind. The human life cycle, such as birth, coming of age, marriage, parenthood and death, along with temporal transitions, such as between day and night or night and day, or seasonal changes within the agricultural cycle, are also seen as transitions that influence changes in behaviour among humans at various scales. Entering a dark space, such as a cave or a passage tomb, creates a diminishing visual ability to perceive the world. One enters a completely different space, and all other senses are now more activated as we lose the power of vision. The crossing of physical thresholds, coupled with the loss of light, can cause a betwixt and between state that aids in creating memories and expectations formed during the event and the experience of crossing from light into darkness. Passage tombs, passage and chambers are below an artificial cairn or mound and form a link between above ground and below ground. The dead ancestors are contained in a position between these two worlds. Hence they potentially represent a sacred centre or an axis mundi, and represents the community in a similar way to how a dwelling stands for a household. The architecture at many passage tombs in Ireland wrap the monument in a multiplication of bounded spaces which must be crossed to gain access to the central chamber where the commingled remains of the dead are. Crossing various thresholds at passage tombs, along with the sensory overload when we enter from light into darkness, are all linked to a narrative of journeying to the next world, to the other world.
Waiting for the day. I was never ready. I was just waiting, but it never came.